This is the Lakin Chronicles Road to Recovery podcast with addiction recovery specialist Dr. Greg Lakin. Real people, real stories, real addiction, and real recovery journeys. The road to recovery starts now.
Hey, thank you. Hey, I have a special guest today, Mark. Mark is come to tell his story. One of the things we want to do here is really help people by, we have great success stories from people that have figured it out. It may not have been easy, but life on the other side is certainly worth it. Mark, just tell us how your addiction all started and how it progressed. And
let's see. So I could start with the addiction part. I think I tried my first, illegal substance somewhere around 12, 13 years old. Marijuana and alcohol. And so the alcohol progressed up through high school with some spattering of marijuana, a little bit of cocaine here and there. But the behaviors, looking back on it with 10 years clean, the behaviors were there before any substances were introduced to my body. The defiance, the lashing out, the reacting to situations. Let's see. So
now you're thinking back with all this hindsight and experience and stuff, and you can actually see the signs were there, but at that age.
Yeah, who's aware of it? How can you communicate that at that age? You don't have the ability to know what's going on and convey that message to an adult that something's going on upstairs.
Exactly.
But the drugs didn't help. The drugs were an escape from the feelings. I didn't want to feel what was going on inside, and I could take a substance and it would make me feel a sick sense of comfort.
Right. And so when you say even before, when you took drugs, did you actually feel more normal, like it quieted your mind, or did it actually just feel like, were you after euphoria, or do you think that?
At first, I'm sure it was that you were after the euphoria. That all went away when it became the physical need became, so prevalent that, you had to satisfy that urge. Eventually it becomes not fun at all whatsoever. You're doing it for the social aspects of it, and you're doing it to fit in, and the peer pressure, and but then after a while, it becomes just second nature, and you just have to have it to function. You think you take a drug and you feel normal, but that's what your body tells you, and everybody around you knows something's going on, except you. Right,
and you can almost get in the habit of trying to change your mood artificially through other means. It just becomes second nature.
It becomes second nature, and then it becomes there's a craving for it.
But and so we're talking marijuana, alcohol, occasional cocaine, and then
it progressed into I was addicted to anything. It was I want more of whatever it was: crack, meth, opiates, heroin. Just whatever was available. I just didn't want to feel myself in that normal state. There was such a chaotic mess up in my brain about who I was, what I wanted to be. You've got the whole society telling you to be one way, and it conflicts with what's going on inside you. And and looking back, you said the hindsight. Looking back on it now, you're trying to. We want to be unique. We want to be our own selves, but with the media and your parents and your friends pushing society on you, it's just hard to sort that out on what you want to be. There's just a conflict.
So all these expectations, sometimes they're personal, sometimes they're from the outside.
Religion,
yeah. So oftentimes people kind of develop a drug of choice. Did you have a drug of choice?
It ended up being crack for sure. That was what I went back to the most. But in between that, it was whatever was available.
Sure. So you got used to these big giant dopamine surges. That was just what it took. Yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't find it anywhere else.
Sure. And so this, how did that affect your lifestyle? I assume you're going through a lot of money, jobs.
The jobs, it was, the constant, after high school and going to work on going to live on your own and trying to have a life, and it was, unable to pay your bills on time. And that's when it was still somewhat manageable. You know, I was functioning, but you know, after years of that, you know, 10, 15 years of the functioning addict, you know, it became, I couldn't hold a job, I couldn't work, and I couldn't, you know, I tried to live on your own and not being able to pay your bills, the power turned off, you know, no insurance on your cars, and it just became the constant getting and using and finding ways and means to get more, you know, drugs. And
like you illustrate, I mean, they can function for a while, you know, but it's going to catch up with you eventually. Yeah. So what was it? Was there a sentinel event that made you think it's time to get off, or?
There was constant. I mean, that was a constant theme in the back of your mind. You know, you tell yourself, well, I know I'm a drug addict, but you know, you look around in situations and you see people that are worse off than you, and you're like, well, you know, at least I'm not that bad. I'm not that bad. It's not that bad yet. And
yeah.
And the conflict, you know, I feel, you know, for me, that there was a part of my brain that would lie to me and tell me that it wanted me to continue down that path. I mean, there's a part of me that would lie to me so I could get that dopamine rush, and it would do what it would say. You know, it lies to you in your own voice, so it's hard to...
Right, and I see that kind of addictive thinking all the time. Well, I'm only taking 6 pills, or I'm just taking them orally, or at least I'm not IV, or at least if I'm IV, I'm not heroin.
Yeah, there's a lot of justification and rationalization about your behaviors.
Sure. Now, when is it that you decided, hey, I got to do something? Was there...
Pretty much, you know, it's when you're at the end of the road. I mean, there's no money, you've abused everybody in your life, and, you know, that was there for you. So you can't manipulate money out of the family anymore because you lied, cheated, stole from them so much. And your friends, even drug, you know, even your drug connections just didn't want to have anything to do with you. It just got so bad. And there was, I had like one friend left, and you know, for some reason, you know, this guy, he was an addict on his own right. It wasn't like me. Like, he never had to go out and steal for it, or you know, he never had those urges to progress to harder drugs. And you know, we were just talking, and I remember telling him, you know, hey, I'm a drug addict. I drove from Jacksonville, Florida to Savannah, Georgia, and just because I didn't have anywhere else to go, nowhere else to stay. No, you know, I had the gas in the tank, and that was about it. And just told him, hey, listen, I'm a drug addict. And the funny thing is, you know, I've shared my story before, and you know, he was like, well, are you just figuring this out? You know, it's just like, because everybody in my life knew.
Yeah. Well, and so you just finally got bad enough, or you got lonely enough, or something clicked. And
just desperation.
Desperation.
I mean, just desperation to have something else. You know, I need something else, but you know, it's in that situation, you don't know how to go about it. You know, what options you have, and you know, or where to turn. And at that point, you're so self-reliant on your own street skills, or your own, you know, the stream of consciousness you have in your brain tells you that you can do it. You've done it this long alone. You know, how can you let somebody else try to help you?
Right. And you're really not worried about tomorrow anyway, usually.
No, there's no thought about, you know, anything past your next fix.
Yeah. So what was it that you did? And obviously it must have worked.
So a good friend of mine said, you know, we were going over the options, and he said, you can try Narcotics Anonymous. He said it worked for a really good friend of mine. And at that point, that was like the only option that the only option I'd ever thought of. You know, and at different times in my life, I'd tried the inpatient rehabs, outpatient rehabs, psychological care units. You know, there's times I was putting those. Different times my parents had. I ended up in a boarding school out in Utah, and you become such a master manipulator of your situations that you can just lie your way out of all that. You know, it's going to be different this time. It's not going to be the same. I'm done with that way of life. And it's so quick to fall back if you don't have some kind of support system set up.
Yeah. And you made a comment earlier that you're actually fooling yourself as well as everybody else.
Oh yeah, there's definitely, you know, I see that part of my brain, and even today with 10 years clean, it's still, and I don't know what it is. I mean, different religions, different philosophies, different countries have different names for that dark side of you. Jung, you know, Carl Jung knew that there was something inside us, you know, that was a dark level, and it still to this day, you know, I hear the voices in the back telling me, hey, listen, you can go back. It's not going to be that bad anymore. You can do it this time.
Yeah. Isn't that true? This time I got it figured out.
This time
I
going to be different.
know, I'm on guard. But so it was NA that did it for you.
Narcotics Anonymous.
And was there like a special message that resonated? Or was there a special, I mean, you had to get clean long enough for your brain to actually start processing it correctly.
Yeah. There was, the catchphrases that were in there. Keep coming back and don't use and your brain plays tricks on you there too. I mean, I remember there's in the basic text in Narcotics Anonymous it talks about who's an addict, and you can read this chapter. And I literally was so self-centered that I thought that my parents had played this evil trick on me, and that they had got put together this Narcotics Anonymous group. And this chapter was wrote about my life, and now with some long time clean, I look back and I see other addicts say the same thing. Like, I thought this was a joke. I thought it was a trick. I thought they were trying to trick me.
Yeah.
And it was, and that first chapter resonated with me because I was like, this is my life, And I literally at that point, I thought it was my life. I thought it was all a big TV show, and it was, like, I can't remember the TV show series when the cameras were on everybody, but I thought that was me, and it was just my selfish, self-centered nature. Yeah. And, but what really helped, I mean, after I kept coming back long enough to, that the drugs started to subside with the control of my actions, the identification with another human being that they had used like I had used, and they had substantial clean time. Right. To know that someone else, because we always think we're worse than anybody else, eventually you get to the point like, well, you've never used like I've used. I'm trying to quit, but you don't understand. You don't understand what I'm going through, and it's just not true.
Well, and that's why these stories are so powerful, I think. Way more motivational than something some doctor's going to say. Yeah. People need to know that life's worth it on the other side, and they can do it. So you actually felt your brain kind of slowly start to change. The cravings, the need, those things, just
the desire, the desire to use and go cop more, eventually left, and there's some of the literature talks about, we're powerless over our addiction, and we are powerless. Like the first time I put a drug in my body, at this point, I realized that I will probably go down that road again. Right. And at other times throughout my life when I'd quit on my own, I'm going to do this on my own, and you go a week, and well, maybe I'm not going to try those drugs again. But I'm going to start here. I'm going to get a beer, or I'm going to smoke pot, and the next thing you know, you go to the pot dealer's house, and there's no drugs, and he's got some pills, and I'm just going to do these, and I'm not going to do those, and it's just sometimes it's a short trip to that dark place, and sometimes it's a real long, drawn out trip to that dark place. And
right, certainly have patients and friends, they are clean for a day or a week, and now it's time to go celebrate or reward themselves.
Oh, exactly, reward themselves.
Yeah. Well, good.
Before I looked for excuses, and then there eventually became a time when, I'm doing so good, maybe I can do this again.
Yeah.
And anymore, I'm under the impression that I couldn't give up what I have now. It wouldn't be worth it. The short-term feeling, euphoria, dopamine rush, just would not be worth giving up the things that I have in my life today.
Yeah. And so how is your life today? I mean, you're here telling your story. It's a good success story. You've got all kinds of...
So I went from using, smoking crack every day, all day. The only thought I would have was, how can I get my next fix? From living, walking in the worst parts of Dallas, I'd park the car and walk in because my car would have been stolen if I was in there, and walking down alleys, just trying to trade whatever I had for just one more, to living, stealing water and electricity from a rundown mobile home in the woods because that's all I had was a camper, and to, let's see, today I went back to school. I've got 2 degrees. I'm a manufacturing engineer. I own my own home, multiple vehicles, the healthiest relationship in my life. And, I have a daughter that's never seen me use.
Yes.
She'll be 5 years old here pretty quick.
So, yeah, 2 other people that are very important in your life. And so it's not just for yourself, but it's for them. So this daughter doesn't have any clue. Has no clue.
Yeah, she has no clue. I told her I was coming to do this today. And every every Sunday I go to Narcotics Anonymous meetings, and more than that if the situation warrants. And I tell her I'm going to a meeting, and she really doesn't understand yet what that's all about.
Right.
But her mother's in the same boat, and her mother goes to meetings, and so she actually goes to some meetings and hangs out with some of the other kids from Narcotics Anonymous.
Well done. Yeah. Did you notice that when your brain was so used to all these giant dopamine surges, 300-400 times normal, and then all of a sudden it's not there anymore? Was there a time where things seemed flat, where things,
Well, yeah.
And then how long does it take for your brain to reset? I mean, people need to hear that, hey, it does reset.
So, yeah, I mean, you're always searching for, when I got clean, I was always looking for something, something to make me feel, well, first of all, I mean, I guess the first part of it is the feelings, like dealing with the feelings that come with being clean and that I hid from for so long. There were so many, love, anger, grief. I mean, all those things come, and you have no skills on how to deal with them, and sometimes they're overwhelming. As a child growing up, I mean, eventually you learn how to deal with these things on your own and how to handle the feelings that come inside. But as an addict that's hid those and regressed those for so long, it's hard to deal with. And the feelings were coping with the feelings in the beginning in recovery was a very difficult part, and almost took me out to use multiple times. I mean, there was just the feelings seem so large and overwhelming. People talk about, I have big feelings. I mean, they're just so amplified when you haven't felt them for so long. And
just normal life shit.
Normal life shit is just overwhelming. And then whether
historically you've just checked out, but now you're dealing with it.
You're dealing with it. And is that, historically you've checked out and used drugs, and this now you're calling, people in your network in Narcotics Anonymous that have been through this same thing, and you're saying, hey, I'm I thought I loved this girl and she left me, and my whole life is falling apart, and the answer I got, and I still think of this today. My sponsor said, well, you don't know what love is, for all you know, that feeling could be gas, and he's right, you don't know what these things are. But now today what I've learned is the love that you feel is the love that I feel. The grief that you feel is the same as the grief that I feel, and anger and how we deal with all that, is something you learn in the process in recovery.
Yeah, you're very, very cerebral about the whole experience. So, what are some of the things you've learned, and some of the messages you want to send to people that think that were there where you were?
Well, I mean, you're worth it. I mean, I got to a point to where I thought I wasn't worth it. I don't deserve anything good. I'm such a bad person. And a lot of that comes from the society and the religion, what we were raised in, and it's what's forced on you, and sins, and oh my God, you're going to go to hell, and you're such a sinner, and so you deep in your mind you have that programming, and it's just saying, I'm not worth it. I'm not. I shouldn't be here. It's like, why am I still here? And but you are, you're worth it. And something I struggle with is in meetings when people say, oh, only by the grace of God am I here today. And the grace is like an undeserved reprieve, and I fight that all the time because I don't think anybody's undeserving of a life worth living. I mean, I don't.
Right.
And you can have it. It's there. It's just like there's people, there's different programs. I mean, there's NA, AA, CA, Naranon, Narcanon, there's so many different programs, and you will fit somewhere. If you don't fit in one, you can find someplace you do fit in, and you can find identification with other people that have been through the life. We all have different lives, but the situations are the same, and we individualize so much that we think we're different. We want to be on the outside. I don't need to be. I can't be in there with you guys, getting clean and living this good life. I don't deserve it. That was something that I struggled to overcome. And the guy, the group of men that I got with in Narcotics Anonymous, they reached in and said, hey, listen, you're okay. You're going to be okay. And if I tried to withdraw, they would reach out and they would grab on me and say, hey, listen, it's a dangerous place to sit on the outside and jump in the middle.
Oh, they must have seen something worth saving. And you make a good point. You try a program here or try a program there, and it doesn't resonate or it doesn't connect with you, and yet you keep trying, you'll find one.
You'll find one. You've got to find one. But But see, that's another trick. I mean, that's something that that I feel the dark side in me tries to trick me out of here. These guys, this guy says one thing, this program says another thing, this program says another thing. They must not know what they're talking about, But you have to start making decisions that are going to benefit your life. Like, I'm really good at sitting on the outside long enough to talk my way out of something. And but when I start making a decision, okay, I'm going to go to, and I'm just bringing up the program that worked for me. I'm going to go to Narcotics Anonymous, and I'm going to devote myself to reading this book, and I'm going to devote myself to following the suggestions, getting a sponsor, reading the literature, going to 90 meetings in 90 days. You start to see that these decisions you're making are benefiting your life, because before, the decisions I made did nothing but hurt my life. Right. And it's hard for you to understand that you're capable of making decisions that will benefit you in the long run. And in the beginning, I didn't make a lot of good decisions. Even clean, just barely clean, I didn't make a lot of good decisions.
You had habits you had to change.
Yeah.
But like you said, 90 and 90, or some of these, it's not all easy. The journey's not without its, issues, but still, like you said, it's worth it on the other side. You're doing great right now. And then what are you doing again to toe the line? I mean, you know that, anybody can go back there, but you've set yourself up for success. You've been clean for how long?
10 years. I picked up 10 years in February 14th.
Yeah. Good. But you still go to meetings?
Still go to meetings. I still talk to my sponsor, multiple times a week. I still talk to the men in my network.
Yeah. You're out there helping others.
I take other people to meeting. I sponsor other addicts.
Powerful.
I just stay involved. I mean, like I said earlier, I try to stay in the middle of it, because if I sit on the outside long enough, I'll just be like, I'll go back to that. I can do it on my own.
Right.
And it's self-sufficiency, and the higher power thing almost kept me out of the different rooms, AA, NA, because they talk about God, they talk about higher powers, and that's scary when you come from a place to where you really truly believe my God has forsaken me, right. Where this God, and there's some huge plan. How does he plan for me to sit in this crack alley, or this rundown crack mobile home with possums coming up through the damn vents? Mm-hmm. How is this part of a plan? And so it's hard to turn that and build the higher relationship with a higher power to so you can feel that wholeness inside.
No, and it doesn't even matter what religion or what faith or anything.
Not at all.
I mean, certainly it does two things for you. It allows you to forgive your shame and your past that you can't do anything about. It allows you to do that, but it also helps relieve a lot of anxiety about the unknown and the future. I see people, especially addicts, are so afraid of going through withdrawals, or not having the drug, or not having money for the drug, or not even knowing what's. It keeps them in this fight or flight state all the time, and so.
Oh, you're absolutely right. I mean, we create that. We create that inside, like the woulda, shoulda, coulda, what if. Right. In the future, I'm trying to predict the future on what's all going to happen, and I have no idea. I really have no idea. But I convince myself that it's going to be so bad that I'm not going to try it. It's not going to work. It's going to be so bad. I can't start down that journey. And the religion thing is it doesn't matter. I mean, it doesn't matter. You can coming into any of the programs, you can keep the God you have. You can find a new God. And the benefit of the recovery programs is nobody's going to try to make you choose. And if somebody tries to make you choose, find another program.
Right. Perfect. Well, very powerful. So I appreciate the fact that, your message is certainly that it's worth it on the other side. It may not feel like it is when you're in the addictive world, and that it's not easy, but it can be done.
It can be done. And that's part of the, looking back on it now with some clean time, is the obsessive and compulsive behavior. Mm-hmm. I mean, we obsess on a feeling, we obsess on the drugs, we obsess on situations, and we compulsively go back to these, and it's really hard to break that cycle of that and start seeing that there's something outside of there and going in that direction without help. I mean, because I at any moment I can falter, and now I have so many different things in the way that would a lot of things would have to break down now for me to go back to that lifestyle. And but that's really, I mean, something I'd never thought about when I was using was the obsessive and compulsive behavior and the OCD behavior. And I can see it today in certain things too,
Right.
but it's not the drugs.
You know, it's interesting. We see people out there with certain kinds of personality types, and they're on the verge of fight or flight anyway. And a lot of their mentation is that it's literally life or death if they don't get this or don't get that or whatever. And it has nothing to do with reality, but you know,
Crisis mentality.
It is. It's crisis.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. It's the limbic portion of your brain thinking it truly is life or death if you don't get your next fix or whatever.
Yeah.
It
It
much
is, and
emotion.
it's in the withdrawals. But you know, in some of our literature talks about if we do not suffer through the pain of withdrawals, you know, we're doomed to repeat ourselves.
Right.
And I'm a firm believer in that. You know, and I know there's all kinds of treatments and replacement therapies and you know, but at some point, how long are we going to substitute, and when are we going to start living life on life's terms?
Absolutely. Well, good. Very powerful. I really appreciate you coming in and talk to us. I really appreciate the fact that, you know, you're doing this selfless act where you literally come in and tell your story, which takes a lot of courage, but with the sole purpose of telling other people that they can do it, that it's worth it on the other side, that you were just as bad as they are probably now, and I appreciate you reaching out and helping others. I mean,
no, yeah, I mean that's what we do. You know, helping others. People see it as it's great for the person you're helping, but you know, really inside it helps me just as much, or if not more. To reach out and pull someone out of that hole. You know, to stop digging that hole, and you know, the guys that helped me, they got shovels out, they jumped down in the hole I dug, and they helped me dig my way out. And you know, the only, you know, medicine, religion, psychiatry couldn't do it. You know, it was a group of addicts that had found a better way, and in this way is documented. You know, there's documented proof that it works, and if you're willing to put some effort into it, you know, half as much effort as I put into using to getting clean, just half. If I put half as much effort into getting clean as I did using, you know, I can find a better way to live.
thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome anytime.
All right.
Dr. Lakin is a board-certified family medicine doctor with an emphasis in addiction medicine and over 25 years of experience. For addiction recovery services in the Wichita area, please visit www.centerforchangeks.com or visit samhsa.gov for a national directory of resources and recovery centers in your area. You can also find these links in the podcast description. Thank you for listening to the Lakin Chronicles Road to Recovery podcast. And remember, you've got this.